What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. We've got the AFC East grades here, getting to the end of this marathon. Just one more video to go after this. Quick reminder, please do hit that like button if you're enjoying the videos, this series. You want to support the channel. That is the easiest way to do it right there. So let's get into it here, starting alphabetically with the Buffalo Bills. Ed Oliver just kind of falling into their lap. A no-brainer decision here. He was one of three blue-chip players on my draft board behind Nick Bosa and Quinnen Williams, with the Jags and the Giants kind of passing on Ed Oliver, teams that I thought had a good chance of taking him. A no-brainer pick here for the Bills. They needed someone to replace Kyle Williams. Look out for this Bills defense now that they have another elite player there. Should open some things up for Tremaine Edmonds, getting a better pass rush in there, increase his coverage ability, those corners, the safeties. You've got Jerry Hughes there. Really good, well-rounded defense, but they were missing a big impact on the inside, and they got it here with Ed Oliver. And then in the second round, another really good player kind of fell into their lap. Cody Ford, definitely a first-round caliber player. Now, he could play right tackle, right guard, left guard. We've already talked about the importance of having that sixth man to be sort of a swing man in the event of injuries, which are so common for offensive linemen. You got five players to keep upright. So if anyone goes down, they will have one extra man to plug in. So they'll have now, between Deion Dawkins, Cody Ford now, and their center that they signed, Mitch Morse, three really talented younger players to kind of be the core of that offensive line. They've got some good competition at the other guard spot between Quinton Spain and Wyatt Teller. So you should be able to get a starting caliber player out of those two, if not two starting caliber players. And then at right tackle, they signed Ty Nsekhe. Now, maybe Nseke's bad and you play Ford at right tackle or whatever. This gives you a lot of flexibility to make sure you have a good offensive line next year. So I loved this pick. Excellent value. Then they took Devin Singletary. I really wasn't a fan of this pick. There was wide receivers on the board right now, like a Riley Ridley would have been a fantastic pick. Get an exciting young wide receiver now for Josh Allen after you've increased the offensive line, gave him some help on the defense. Give him a better wide receiver threat, or go with a better tight end than Dawson Knox, like Foster Moreau, who they actually could have had at the end of the third anyway. But I do like Devin Singletary's game. He belongs in the NFL. He should be, a starter at some point in his career. Really good balance, has some similarities in that regard to like Kareem Hunt. He's really good at taking on the angle of that first defender, kind of shrugging him off, fighting for a few more yards. Doesn't have the elite kind of traits you look for, though. And, they signed TJ Yeldon, Frank Gore, LaShawn McCoy. I know those guys aren't long-term answers, but I don't know if this team was really in a spot where a running back early in the third round here was a good pick. Maybe he turns into the next Alvin Kamara and makes me look dumb. He was great in college, but I don't see that happening. Then you have Dawson Knox here at the end of the third. Really nice pick, uber athletic guy, really good pass blocker, just a good blocker in general, which is really intriguing considering his athletic upside. And when they targeted him, which was not very often, he actually did perform very well. But for whatever reason, he just didn't produce in college. He had a ton of great receivers there, so they definitely wanted to keep him in to buy time to get the ball to DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown. So if there's something to be unlocked here in Dawson Knox, a potential steal, or he just, maybe isn't actually that instinctive in the pass game, doesn't have good hands or can't run good routes or something like that. But I think more likely than not, he's going to be eventually a starter here for the Bills and a good weapon for Josh Allen. And then they kind of stole Vosean Joseph in the fifth round. I think he kind of fell because of the hamstring concerns, but a really athletic linebacker. You now have a really talented linebacker room with Matt Milano, who was one of the best cover linebackers in the NFL last year. Tremaine Edmonds, super young player, going to keep getting better. He's only like 21 years old, was a top 12 pick last year, a freak athlete. Now Vosean Joseph, good combination of the two. He's a little quicker than Tremaine Edmonds, a little faster than Matt Milano, but he's got a lot of developing to do, and he's going to be able to do that as this team's third linebacker. You also have Lorenzo Alexander, however you want to classify his position. And then I loved the Jaquan Johnson pick. I had a 4th to a 5th round grade on him. He's just kind of a playmaker. Doesn't have the ideal athletic upside, but he's going to come in, be this team's third safety, really good tackler, smart player. In the event of an injury, I think he could start, and who knows, he could be the long-term answer to safety for Jordan Poyer or Micah Hyde if you have to move on from one of those guys. Loved that pick. And then you grab an edge out of NC A&T, Tommy Sweeney, Good blocker out of Boston College, but not too much to really mention there. But overall, we're going to give the Buffalo Bills an A here. Excellent value. I would have liked to see them add one more kind of receiving threat for Josh Allen. I think I would have done that instead of the Devin Singletary pick. Waited till next year for running back. If they would have done that, this would have been an A-plus draft. I really liked what they did. And I think Buffalo is going to compete for the playoffs next year. Then we've got the Miami Dolphins. Now, before we even talk about their draft, I really want to commend what they've done. We kind of said when we did a rebuild of this team that it will be smart for this team to move on from Ryan Tannehill, even if it means giving him up for nothing, and that's what they did. Let these kind of bad veteran free agent contracts that you have on this team expire so you, in a year or two, have an opportunity to kind of start fresh. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't spend on really any free agents at all. I think they've overspent way too much in free agency. You've got to let these contracts, these bad contracts, just kind of run their course while you try to develop the core of this team and work on the line play. That's really what we've been saying, and we've been praising this team leading up to the draft. And I was interested to see what they do, if they're going to, stay consistent. So many times you like what a team does, and then they, take a left turn. And they really didn't do that. So they took Christian Wilkins in the first. Now, personally, I think this was a bad pick. At 13, I would have gone Jeffrey Simmons. That's what I had been mocking to them this whole time. He takes a redshirt year for a team that isn't necessarily looking to win right now. Get him back the next year as a top 10 talent. I thought that would have been much better. I like Christian Wilkins, but to me, he's, that basic defensive tackle, really good against the run, can be basic's a rough word. My comparison's Dalvin Tomlinson. Can get after the quarterback at times, but not a, over 50 pressure type guy. Has some moves to get after the quarterback, really good run defender, but just not really worth that pick for me. So I did think that was a reach, but I do like the idea of addressing the line play, like we keep saying. And then, really crafty move, they take their second round pick, move down, and then trade that pick for Josh Rosen. And to do that, they get a second round pick next year. So really, really good pick. And Josh Rosen has so much upside. We keep saying that, but the beautiful thing here is you got that future second round pick. So you have a quarterback now for this year to compete with Ryan Fitzpatrick. You're not going to hand him that job. And then if he is bad, say he's bad and you win 4 games and you have kind of tanked, you by no means have to stand by Josh Rosen because you didn't give that much up for him. If I was the Dolphins, I don't know if I would have given up a first-round pick because they've done such a good job to this point to kind of set this team up to tank and get that, high number 1 quarterback almost like the Browns did. But say he's bad. Well, you have an extra second-round pick next year. It's a wash. You can either try and trade him again for like a 5th-round pick or whatever. Just let him, become the backup. A really, really cheap backup. He's going to make like $1 million a year for the next 3 years. So just a no-brainer trade here. And then to move down and get that future second, really good job here by the Dolphins, who I've really questioned this front office with Chris Greer. But I do think now with Brian Flores, these guys are on the same page of what they want to do, and I think it's really impressive this offseason that they've kind of set up for the future. But then they didn't stop. They got Michael Dieter in the 3rd round. I would have taken him early 2nd. I think he's a plug-and-play starter at guard for 10 years in the league. So just a steal there to get a starting guard that this team desperately needed. Probably the worst guards in the NFL. And if there was any question about if Brian Flores was going to do what Matt Patricia has done in Detroit and kind of replicate that New England scheme, well, here you go. Andrew Van Ginkel. This is his first kind of hybrid linebacker edge type player that Bill Belichick is just enamored by. Pretty much every linebacker he takes, it feels like, can rush the passer and cover and stop the run, and that is exactly what you get in Andrew Van Ginkel. Now, I didn't really have a high grade on him. I think I had a 7 to a PFA grade, but he's going to fit this scheme, and I see why they took him. And then with the 30th pick in the 6th round, they got Isaiah Prince, a tackle I had a 3rd round grade on. So you got potentially 2 starters here in the 3rd and 6th round. Just great picks in my opinion. We'll see how they pan out. Then you took a pair of running backs. I do like Myles Gaskin there much more than Chandler Cox, but he doesn't really have that high upside. I don't know if he's going to see the field much. but he's a nice player for a 7th round pick. So we're going to go A- for the Dolphins. Really the only thing dragging it down is I'm going to stand by me saying that Christian Wilkins not worth a top 20 pick. We'll see how that pans out, but the rest of this draft was fantastic, and they've really set this team up for the future. And if Josh Rosen turns into the franchise quarterback that we know he has the potential to do, you're going to look back on this trade as just robbery by the Miami Dolphins. And you're really going to wonder why the hell the Giants didn't trade more to get Josh Rosen. Because, like I said, I think the Dolphins didn't feel like they had to do this, but no one else was pulling the trigger. And to do this for a back end of the 2nd round pick, it was just a no-brainer. I don't think they were going to give up a first, but, I thought New York should have. And it looks like they didn't even offer. So then we've got the Jets, just 6 picks here. Quinnen Williams, kind of the easy pick here. You've got the Williams brothers now up front there with him and Leonard Williams, elite interior defensive line duo. Excited to watch those guys play. Got some really exciting players on that defense now. C.J. Mosley, Jamal Adams. Really didn't get many corners in this draft when they had opportunities to do so. That's a little questionable, but let's move on and talk about the rest of these picks. So they took Ja'Kai Polite here in the 3rd. I had to give this an A just because of the upside. Now there's questions about his work ethic and if he's going to be in shape, and is he just another Arden Key? And there's certainly potential for him to be that, but his tape was so good. I thought he was the 2nd best pass rusher on tape, or at least edge rusher. So to get him in the 3rd round, I keep saying a lot of these teams are just too safe with these picks. And in the 3rd round, if you have potential to get a top 15 talent, if you can just get it out of him, and you're going to surround him by talent now and a good defensive coach, say what you will about Greg Williams, if you can get that out of Ja'Kai Polite, this is a total steal. And we'll have to just wait and see. I hated these next 2 picks, though. I thought the Jets had to walk away with some offensive talent here, and they really had, opportunities to get starting caliber talent here. Chuma Edoga, more of a developmental tackle. You pass on much better tackles, in my opinion, like Isaiah Prince, like Yadni Kajust, who you let fall 2 teams in this division. So that could prove to be an L for the Jets. And then you take Trayvon Wesco. Foster Moreau still available. Caleb Wilson still available. I can't get behind that pick. Just not the upside. And you just don't really need a tight end. You've got like 2 or 3 solid tight ends here that I like. Riley Ridley's on the board. What are you doing, New York? Then they did make up for it, grabbing Blake Cashman, my guy here in the 5th round. A lot of people on Twitter waiting for my reaction here. Not really much to say. I'm not going to just bail on my evaluation on him as a 1st round talent just because he fell to the 5th. It happens. Kelvin Harmon fell to the 6th as well. A lot of people had 1st and 2nd round grades on him. I do these evaluations on my computers in my room. The downside to doing that is I don't have the medicals on these guys, just like all these teams do. A lot of reports that 3 shoulder surgeries, a lot of injury questions about Blake Cashman, but you can't deny the upside here. He's an elite athlete. He plays the run very well. I thought he had the most instinctive coverage and smart coverage abilities in this class. If he can stay healthy, I do still believe that Blake Cashman is going to be a star linebacker in this league, and I actually had a higher grade on him than Devin Bush. So we'll see how it works out. It's already a talented linebacker room. He's going to have to compete just for a starting job now as a 5th round pick, but I do still believe in the player here. And if he is as good as I think he is, him and C.J. Mosley behind those 2 interior guys with those safeties, the middle of this defense is going to be, let's just say, heavy traffic for opposing offenses. And then they grabbed Bleswan Austin, who was actually on my sleepers list. A guy that didn't really play much his last season because of injuries, but was a high-profile athletic dude. That was on a lot of people's radars heading into last season. So you could be stealing someone that should have been a 3rd round talent if he was on the field. So the Jets here gonna get a B. You like the 2 defensive picks. Ja'Kai Polite very well could be a reach for the stars, and same can really be said about Blake Cashman. If you hit on the upside here, this is going to return elite defensive talent. But the offensive picks here, I can't get over. I thought if those were the positions they wanted to go with, there was much better options, and I'd be a little disappointed that they didn't come away with a good wide receiver out of a really, really good wide receiver class. So you really got to hope that the pieces they brought in free agency can compete. I'm really worried about the state of this offensive line, though. for Sam Darnold heading into his second season. So then we got the New England Patriots. A lot of picks here, so let's get into it. They grab N'Keal Harry in the first. I didn't love it, but a really good fit here. Tom Brady's arm is deteriorating. You look at all of the deep ball analytics. This team well aware that throwing the ball deep, grabbing like a DK Metcalf, Andy Isabella, probably not going to work as well as they would hope here. So instead, they get a highly physical guy that's going to block on the edge, that's going to win contested ball situations, that's a smart player that can sync up with Tom Brady on those option routes and be a good fit here. So I like that. And then they grab Jawan Williams in the second. Sounds like they're going to convert him to safety. I don't love spending, a top 50 pick on a guy that you're going to change his position. But if anyone can pull that off, it's Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. Then they really steal Chase Winovich here in the third round. Underrated athlete. They needed a pass rush presence to replace what they lost in Trey Flowers. And I don't think they really expected to find that here in the third round, but that's a great pick there. Chase Winovich, he should start right away and could be, one of the higher sack getters as a rookie. I would not be surprised. Then Damian Harris, grab a running back out of Alabama. Really nice player. This was about the value. I had a third round grade on him. And I think he was just too good for them to pass up at this point. They love smart running backs who they can trust, not fumbling, that can be versatile, catch the ball, and Damian Harris can do all of those things. Not the highest upside, but you've got Sony Michel in there. And Sony Michel, while he's proved to be a pretty good player, absolutely has injury concerns. So this can lighten the load on him and give you that relief pitcher if anything happens to him. So that's a really good pick, especially for a team that is definitely trying to run the ball more as Tom Brady gets older, and this is just more security for that. And then they get Yodny Cajuste out of West Virginia at the end of the third round, and a lot of teams are going to look dumb for letting the Patriots get him. At a time was a first-round prospect. I'm still not entirely sure why he fell. Wasn't really considered a freak athlete. Honestly, he's not unlike Trent Brown as a player. He's not quite as big, but just good technique as a pass blocker. And it's really almost frustrating that New England, in a league where tackles are so hard to find, that they seem to have 3 or 4 every year, and they just got another one in Yodny Cajuste that could play in a pinch, and I'm sure would be a top 20 tackle after getting coached up there. Then they grab another lineman, Hijalti Froholt. I had a 6 to a priority free agent grade here, so we'll still stay true to that, give this a C, but they also turned Shaq Mason into one of the best guards in the NFL, so not going to question that. Jarrett Stidham at the end of the fourth, great pick, high upside prospect, should have gone before the fourth round. He's going to sit here and kind of relearn the position a little bit. He was really bad his last year at Auburn, but was much better the year before, and he could, potentially be that long-term answer at quarterback. They could do sort of a Jimmy Garoppolo type thing here with Stidham if Tom Brady can play for 2 or 3 more years. And then Byron Cowart out of Maryland. Good pick here. Former 5-star recruit. Had some kind of off-the-field issues at Maryland. New England good at taking these players and getting the most out of them. So, he'll probably be a 4-time All-Pro player, enter the Hall of Fame in 2036. Then they grab a punter out of Jacob Bailey out of Stanford. Bill Belichick's smart. There's not a whole lot of value in paying your punter, so they're gonna bring in a cheap 4-year deal. I'm sure he's a good punter because Bill Belichick liked him. And then Ken Webster, cornerback out of Ole Miss. I see a special teamer this late in the draft. I'm sure that's what their plan is for him. He's a good runner, good tackler, should be a good kick cover guy for them if he makes a roster. So we could give this a grade, but if there's a team that giving a draft grade to is kind of meaningless, it's the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick, because you can say whatever you want about who they drafted, if they took the right position, if they got good value, and you'd be wrong. The correct answer is they had a good draft every single year because Bill Belichick just is 5 steps ahead of everyone else. I do think they got really good players and really good values. But the reason this team is such a dynasty behind having a great quarterback like Tom Brady there is the fact that they can just take players that they know are really good at one or two things and fit perfectly with their scheme. Bill Belichick has full liberty to pursue those players, bring them in, coach them up, and do exactly the same thing every year. It's just the same players with different numbers and names every year, essentially. It's just just a machine here. So the grade's going to be a big, fat Bill Belichick face, although he's in pretty good shape these days. In reality, I would give this draft, it's solid, A minus, A. Like, I do think they got some really good value here, but in reality, grading a Patriots draft is just kind of meaningless. So that's going to do it for the AFC East. We're going to have one more video in the morning for the AFC South, and then we are all done. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please hit that like button if you did. Looking forward to talking to you in the comments. Peace out, and we'll see you next time.